and teams worldwide. Kirk begins each day with a 3-minute cold plunge, does 1,000 push-ups a week, and just recently launched his own sock brand, WalkieTalkieSocks.com, the world's most intentional footwear. Like most everyone here, he has had many varied church assignments and experiences, but believes one of the most important aspects of discipleship is to just keep showing up and slaying shame. Kirk Weisler is the world's leading expert on initiative, an essential component in any worthy and worthwhile relentless pursuit. He's the author of the best-selling book, The Dog Poop Initiative, which is used by over 100,000 organizations worldwide. He and his wife, Rebecca, live in Arizona and are the parents of 6 children. And he has come here on his own dime and time to offer his testimony and his wonderful thoughts with all of us. Kirk.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, what a pleasure to be with you. Did you enjoy Brad Barton? Yeah. I've had a bromance crush on that guy for 25 years now. Just love him. And then Melissa comes and gets right in the way, right when we have our chance to be alone. Yesterday, I enjoyed, was it Jenny Taylor and Darren Johansson and their remarks, and I'm sure you did as well. And it's lovely that you're here. Let's dive in. As we talk about relentless pursuit, I want to begin. We can't begin without talking first about breakfast cereal. And this is an important topic. I'm 61 years old, and some of you are kind of in my generation, and so this is important that you can relate with me, because my kids can't really relate. Not in the way that they should, but I want you to remember when you were a child, your favorite breakfast cereal. I want you to remember it. I want you to just, with fondness, and now I want you to just turn to the person on your left and your right, and just share yours and discover theirs. And there might be a couple people, there's always a couple people that had sad childhoods that didn't get the good stuff. And they're like, oh, my dad wouldn't let me have, and they're going to tell you some freaking hash brown story or something like that. But turn to the person next to you and share your favorite breakfast cereal with 1 or 2 people, please. All right, let's bring it in. Okay, by show of hands, how many had breakfast, back in the day, you had breakfast with the captain? Captain Crunchers out there? We love a little Captain Crunch. Now, you don't want soggy Captain Crunch, are you with me? We don't want soggy Captain. So you would pour the milk on it, eat it really fast. How many people remember going to school and the roof of your mouth was raw? Pieces of flesh hanging down. How many people had breakfast with Tony the Tiger? They're great. All right, good. Tricks are for kids. Tricks? Okay, I know you're out there. Lucky Charms, where you at? Okay, keep your hands up. Marshmallows first or last? Marshmallows first, probably not going to have a good life. So this true story. I was working with a group, and we were just doing a little bit of an icebreaker to kind of just lighten things up just a little bit, and it was more intimate than this. And so there was about 60 of us, and the people that I was working with, they were all on the same work team, so they all know each other. And when I said marshmallows first or last, one lady replied, marshmallows twice. And I'd never heard that before, so we had to kind of explore that. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, well, you know. marshmallows are kind of hard, so you let the milk kind of soak in that soft out, and then you suck off the soft part, you spit the hard center back in. But that was the world. She thought that was the norm, and we were all like, no, it's not. That's not the norm. Nobody does that. How many people remember, and I interviewed, so we've got our stake president representative here, frosted mini wheats, which we can respect that. And then Brother Blocker, cracked wheat, just a sad. In fact, Brother Blocker, stand up, just stand up. Bring it in. He needs love. I need lots of love. Some people, you wonder why they're single. Probably bad cereal. Bad cereal choices as a child. There's always some sad child out there. Grape nuts are like, oh, bless. We know Brad Barton had Wheaties, right? Yeah, Wheaties. No real mystery there. Okay, so how many people remember, in our family, the tradition was that we could have sugar cereal on Saturdays. And then we could watch 2 hours of Bugs Bunny Roadrunner. Saturday was a big day in my childhood. That was like sugar cereal, as much as you could pack in your little body, on Saturday only, and a couple hours of cartoons. It was a big time. I remember opening some Count Chocula. That was a little phase I went through with Count Chocula. Remember the Count? So some of you are old enough to remember when cereal had prizes inside. Remember those were the days. Kids today, they don't know. But there would be a little toy in there, a little patch, a little iron-on something, right? Apple Jacks always had some good stuff in it. And you'd open that box up and you'd kind of dig for that little prize in the bottom. But how many remember opening the box? I remember opening the box and just ready for that sugary goodness, and I looked down and it looked like the box was half empty. How many people remember that? And going like, Mom, it's half empty. They're ripping us off. And then your mom would explain that what? It settles. It settles. It's like some of the boxes even said, some settling may occur. They were trying to take phone calls about it. Some settling may occur. And I want to kind of kick off our discussion about relentless pursuit with this idea of settling, because settling does occur. And I want to kind of explore why that is with this little clip here.
Dear, why don't we switch to DirecTV?
Now, Mother, we are settled. I've settled for cable all my life.
DirecTV has been #1 in customer satisfaction over cable for 15 years.
We find our satisfaction elsewhere. The boy has his stick and tube, the girl her faceless doll, and you have your cabbages.
And you have your fun stomping.
I sure do. Don't be a settler. Get rid of cable and upgrade to DirecTV. Call 900-DirecTV.
Settling occurs. And maybe it occurs for all of us, yes? And all settling's not bad. Maybe the parents, you're like, settle down. But I want to talk about a different kind of settling, and the settling sometimes we do, that I've done, and still do. When I settle for less. I settle for less in relationships with my wife, my kids, my health, my God. And God knew we would settle. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way. And the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. He knew he would settle. He knew we would settle. It's our nature. This book, this beautiful book, it's really the story of a bunch of settlers, isn't it? And God continuously, in relentless pursuit, trying to awaken them to their divinity, to their duty, to their potential, through the voice of his prophets. The rescue, the promised relentless pursuit and rescue of Christ, it's done. It says right here in Isaiah, the Lord had laid on him the iniquity of us all. We've already been what? Rescued. The Good Shepherd has already come for us. And he keeps on coming because we keep on needing it. I think about the first scripture that comes to my mind is how the Lord, that beautiful story, the shepherd leaves and goes in pursuit of the one. And Darren yesterday said, what are the 99 doing while the Lord goes after the one? And ideally they're praying. But I wonder, when I was younger, I always imagined, of course, the shepherd is the Jesus Christ. He's the shepherd, and he's leaving the 99, and he's coming to us, and he's going to find me, he's going to find the one. And it was always Jesus. But Jesus has come to you and to me multiple times. Yes? Multiple times. And if we can reflect and remember, the evidence is overwhelming. But we didn't see his face. We saw what? Somebody else's. That came as an extension of his will. And then another story comes to my mind, the story of this hen. How often I would have gathered thee as a hen gathered her chicks, but ye would not. And I remember hearing one of the general conference talks where the brother explained that the mother hen doesn't run around the yard saying, she just throws her wings out, and the chicks need to come to her. Because if she's out there running, then the little chicks can't keep up, and they're exposed to danger. And I thought, which one is it? Am I supposed to come find the Savior, or is he going to come and rescue me? I think the answer is probably both. But sometimes I'm like, you can't rescue me because you can't catch me. Some of us find ourselves running away in our own relentless pursuit to numb the pain, to quiet our minds, doing whatever we can imagine to hang on, and sometimes our imagination is dark. If you look up Relentless Pursuit in the Gospel app, the first time those two words are put together is in a 1980-ish talk, and it was about Satan's relentless pursuit. So there's these things working for us, as Elder Kieran says, everything is designed so that we can, right, find our way, and Heavenly Father can bring us all home. And yet, there's opposition in all things. And most of the time, we're that opposition. See if this reminds you of you. Oh, thanks for coming. How many people can identify with this? Yeah. I'm good, I got it now. Thanks for the rescue. And then we're right back in our mess again. I want to kind of just talk about this relentless pursuit and this idea of settling and the things that cause us to settle, and see if in this time we share, we can awaken ourselves, and as Nephi talks about in 2 Nephi, if we can become unsettled in a powerful and positive way. The language he uses in one particular verse that I like is Lehi is talking to his sons, and he says, "My sons, arise. Arise from the dust," right? Every prophet, Alma, the elder, Alma, the younger, both needed to become unsettled and felt a call to help other people become unsettled in their naturalness, to awaken to their divinity, to turn towards God, to seek after sacred things. Here's a story that maybe shares both sides of this settling. So this is part of my home team. This is my girlfriend, Rebecca. We've been hanging out for 30-something years, 35, 36. A little bit longer than Brad and I, but not much. These are three of our girls. We've got 3 girls, 3 boys. Some of you have daughters. Some of you were daughters that had dads. But most of you can relate to this in some way. If you're a sucker dad and you're a conniving, sweet, innocent daughter, whatever, when a daughter asks a dad for something, the dad does what? Yeah. To the dismay of many mothers, don't enable. But she's my girl. I love doing things for my girls. This story is about the girl in the front seat there on the left. That's my Rebecca. And we live in Gilbert, Arizona, and I was just about a half mile from a Bash's grocery store, and I was going to walk over to that grocery store and get something that I wanted there. As I'm heading out the door, I said, "Is there anything I can get you?" to my girl. And she said, "Oh my gosh, Kirk, yes. I am craving her favorite Subway sandwich. And I am your prince, I am your king. I will slay dragons to bring you home that sandwich. I got this. This is some low-hanging fruit, and I can come home the hero. I will vanquish this dragon, return with this sandwich. I got this." As the door is swinging almost closed behind me, she goes, "And Kirk," she said, "I'm really craving some tomatoes today. Can you get some extra tomatoes?" "Babe, got you. And I walk over to the grocery store, I get my item, and then I slip next door to the Subway shop, and I see this. If you can't read it in the back, it says, taped to the counter, "Sorry, we're out of tomatoes." But wait, I was just in Bash's grocery store. Not 75 feet away from this sign are lots of tomatoes. What could be done? I can't settle for this. So I spent a few minutes in judgment of the people behind the counter at Subway. Have you ever been to Walmart and you couldn't find something, and then against your better judgment you ask an employee of Walmart where it is, and regretted it even as you finished asking for it because they didn't know either? And they start to pull up their little device, and you're like, "Oh, I can wander around the store quicker than you could find it on that device." But out of the pleasantness, because you're not that kind of person, you stand there but inwardly seething that you actually sought help. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is anyone? So I decided not to engage with the young people behind the counter. I just go next door and I go, but I should have asked some questions. What kind of tomatoes do they use at Subway? I don't know. And there's like 8 different types of tomatoes you can choose from. So I bought 3 of each, and I walked back over there with a huge bag of tomatoes, and I go, hey, these are for you. She was so grateful. No way. You're the coolest guy ever. I get that all the time. She offered to make my sandwich for free. But I didn't. I paid for my sandwich. And I paid for the tomatoes, and I walked home and thought about it. And I gave my girl a sandwich with extra tomatoes. I wasn't willing to settle in that moment. But there have been a lot of other moments in my life where I was willing to settle. And sometimes I knew it, and sometimes I didn't know it, and sometimes I pretended not to notice I was doing it. In the profession I have as a public speaker, and I've also been asked to MC some conferences, and so in emceeing some conferences, I've been able to be on stage with some really unique and fun personalities, including the blue men who don't speak. But I've had a chance to be in a lot of conferences and hear people as eloquent as Brad Barton and Darren and Jennifer Taylor and many others. And sometimes I've been introduced to people that I thought they paid this person $75,000 to talk for 1 hour. So as soon as I introduced them, I went backstage and took notes. I thought, if they're that smart enough to get paid that, I'm going to take some notes, and I'm going to try and not just learn something, I'm going to try and learn something that I can do better. Some guys down in Arizona that knew that I was a speaker and knew that I emceed said, Kirk, would you MC our event? And they were going to start a new event for blue-collar business owners. And they had no budget for it. It had never been done before. And they were my friends. And I said immediately, yes, if I can make the date work, I'm happy to do that. And so I went, and all the people that were going to speak on the program were blue-collar business owners. There was no professional speakers on the docket. And so my job was to introduce people and just keep the thing moving along. And I was going to crush my job. And I was going to have a great day. But I did not expect what happened after I introduced the first speaker. I was so inspired by him that I afterwards contacted him and said, can I please have your slides? Because I want to tell your story to other people. Never imagining that I would be telling it to you. But it was the beginning for me of an unsettling truth that I already knew, but needed to be reminded of. Cody Hawk. So this is his first slide, and he kind of just says, here's who I am. I'm the founder of this, and I'm the founder and CEO of Real Insurance, and I've 8 years in the industry. I've been married 13 years. And then this last bullet kind of surprised me. I'm a recovering addict with 9.5 years of sobriety. I don't know if I would have led with that, but I was listening. The power quote that he has over here on the side where he's got his arms crossed looking like some kind of a serious man. He says, the pursuit of an easier life is the quickest path to a harder one. His next slide. Here's a hard truth, he said. Looking at blue-collar business owners, this man on the stage just said, here's who I am. Yeah, I've got stuff. And the hard truth is that 90% of you will leave here and not change a thing. I was like, dang, that's kind of in your face, but it's blue collar. Let's go with it. Go with it. He said, action changes everything. Taking action is the only thing that separates those who win from those who stay, say it with me, stuck. I'm leaning forward now. I'm like, this is not what I expected to hear. I expected to hear him say and ah and kind of find his way, and he's just coming at it. I feel like he's kind of coming at me. And this is what I do professionally. So I look around the room, and I don't see anyone looking at their watch. I see about 120 people leaning in. He said, I wasn't good enough. I was overweight, I was tired, unfocused, sloppy. The solution, he said, daily action. He said, stop looking for the easy way out. And he said it loud and boldly as a challenge and an invitation both. He said, your health, your business, your marriage, and success all follow the same rules. You've got to show up and you've got to what? You got to do the work. He said, growth in any area, personal, business, relationships, comes down to consistent, intentional action. He then told a story and dug into a little bit of his story about a few years in the insurance business and not making more than $30,000. And then at the very fourth year, with a son who didn't want to be in the room with him and a spouse who didn't either, he did this weird, crazy thing, and instead of finding a real job and getting in the business, he took money he didn't have and decided he was going to hire a personal coach. And the personal coach then said this to him, and he relayed this to us without embarrassment from the stage. He said, the first thing my coach said after I signed the contract, he said, listen, he said, we can turn this thing around. He said, but I can't introduce you to any of my business network right now. Cody said, well, after writing such a big check, why not? And he said, why would they trust you with their business when it doesn't look like you trust yourself in front of a refrigerator? Wow. I was like, Cody said, it was true. I didn't like myself. I didn't say kind things to myself about myself, and the frequency and energy that I gave off radiated around me. It was true. I needed to do some personal work. I need to stop making excuses. I need to start taking action. He said, by the time I'd lost my first 80 pounds, I had an 80% increase in my business. As I changed my energy and my frequency, I became more attractive. Not physically, but to the world around me. Jesus Christ, right, draws all men, right? There's these things, Sister Taylor talked about being co-creators, and if we harness these true and correct principles, we can realize we're the sons and daughters of God. And we've got to stop making excuses and hiding and jumping back in the ditch or being embarrassed that we've fallen in the ditch so many times. And we've just got to get up again Get on the track again. Get going again. Get growing again. He said, my marriage was almost over. My wife and I talked openly about divorce, and we said, well, when she saw me starting to do some work, she was now open to the invitation because she saw that she could trust me to do the work. I told her that I wanted to work on our marriage. We went to counseling every week, sometimes twice a week, for a year. We did the work. He said, this was a few years ago, he said, but we still go once a month for some tune-up so things don't build up. I looked at him and I kept looking at the 120 people in the room because it wasn't about losing weight. It was about being honest with the things that are weighing us down. All progress begins by telling the truth. And the truth can help set us what? Free. He then closed his remarks. He said, your 9 to 5 isn't killing you and your dreams. It's your 5 to 9. And then he talked about what he had built into his life, his non-negotiables, that most of your day is a reflection of how you begin your day. And if you begin your day without a plan, a pattern, consistency, it's probably reflected throughout your day. But when you have a system and a process, some non-negotiables at the beginning of the day, they set a tone for your day. He said, change your mindset, be the person that shows up, surround yourself with the right people, invest in personal and professional development, and make a decision that you're never going to go back. You might fall in the ditch, but you don't have to what? Jump in it. I looked over and I noticed this man. I watched him a few times wipe the tears from his cheeks. He's a pretty buff looking dude, yeah? But I wanted to walk up to him and say, why were you crying, man? And so I did. I said, hey, it sounded something like this. Hey, hi. Your name's probably Flex, mine's Kirk. His name's Robert Bruner. And he was more than willing to respond to my questions. And he and I have become friends. He said, his story is my story. I said, what do you mean? He pulled out his phone, he showed me this picture. He said, this is me. And this is me. And I had a teenage son who didn't want to spend any time with me. And I blamed him for it. It wasn't until I got honest and started doing the work and started showing up consistently he's now training for a bodybuilding competition down in Arizona and has become a personal trainer that's quite popular in the area. He said, I don't know how I got here. I pretended not to see it for a long time. Pretending doesn't work. Now, he said, my son comes to the gym with me. I have a relationship with him as a teenager that I never imagined was possible, hearing hundreds of friends talk about the disconnect they have with their own teens. I listened. I felt, and I was inspired. I wondered if Cody I wonder if he was the one. I wondered if those 120 people that were listening, I wondered if in the quiet desperation of their own despair, they felt found. They felt invited. They felt rescued. My own unsettling truth. After serving for 5 years as a bishop down in Gilbert, we moved across the street. Because if you've ever been to Gilbert, people don't move very far in Gilbert. They just move a mile or two. Before we moved to Arizona, moving meant moving from one state to another, one city to another. But being a bishop in Gilbert, with the highest turnover, the highest move-in, move-out rate in our stake, you talk to all these families moving in and moving out, and they're just moving a freaking half mile away. And you're like, why even pack a bag? And then you become one of those people. So we just moved a half mile because we wanted to be accepted. Right after we moved, the COVID thing happened, and I didn't know what to do. And I was ashamed that I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a plan. And I was ashamed that I didn't have a plan. And I don't believe in shame, so I was ashamed that I was ashamed. I help people gain insight, actionable insights. That's what I think I do. And I attach so much of my identity to being a provider and to being a leader of people and a teacher. And I wasn't doing any of those things. And I know that I have value as a son of God, but for some reason that was so far parked somewhere else that I just couldn't find it. And at that same time, a couple of our kids were using their agency. Remember yesterday, Jennifer said, agency, the thing that parents hate, that kids have? Something like, which was kind of strong, but it's true. Sometimes you're like, whoa, I wish you couldn't choose that. A couple of our kids had made some really bizarre, very public decisions. And Rebecca and I had very different ideas about how to respond to that. And so she felt like I wasn't showing up for her. And I felt like she'd lost her mind. We were disconnected. I was in despair and depression, but I couldn't admit it because that happened to other people, not to who? I loved Darren yesterday. Darren said, being here is on nobody's bucket list ever. And there's so many different versions of that truth. As I sit on the front porch, stuck in the ditch, in denial, I'm sure my sweet wife praying for me. What happened to my man? Jesus showed up in my front yard. He had the beard and everything, but I knew him as Jason Howell. And Jason got out of his truck. Hey, Bishop. I wasn't his bishop anymore, but I had been. Hey, Jason. What's up? He goes, just felt like I should come miss you. I miss you. All right. And I looked at him. I said, man, you look good. He said, thank you. I said, nah, yeah, you look good. He said, thank you. I said, no, you look good. He said, thank you. I'm starting to be uncomfortable. I said, why do you look so good? He goes, oh, I've been doing a program. I said, what is it? He says, 75 Hard. Who's heard of or done 75 Hard? Yeah. So I said, what? I don't even know what you're talking about. He goes, well, it's a thing. And I said, well, tell me about it. And a little bit like Brad's story, how Brad was watching the old coaches and he felt sorry for them on the first lap. And by the last lap, he was like, I need to do that. He felt called. That's kind of in a 3-minute version without world records. That's what happened to me. So he says, 75 Hard, you're supposed to do 5 hard things every day. And then if you miss any one of these 5 things, you have to start, you don't do the day over, you go back to day 1 of 75 Hard. And the 5 hard things are a gallon of water every day, establish a diet of some sort, some kind of, it could be South Beach diet, carnivore diet, intermittent fasting, whatever it is, you just establish a diet, do that every day. You read 10 pages every day. Audible doesn't count. You got to turn the pages. You got to physical. You got to make your eyeballs have to move the whole thing. You have to do exercise 45 minutes twice a day. So 2 45-minute workouts. One of them has to be outside. So if you're in Arizona, you got to sweat. If you're in Utah, you got to freeze. And then the other thing you have to do is you have to kind of stand in front of the mirror with minimal clothing and take a picture of that. If you miss any of those things, you got to begin again. And so the first thing I did was I practiced drinking water for a few days because I thought, at my age, I'm going to the bathroom a lot at night anyway. So just took a few days to figure out how to not wet the bed. Figured that out. Good water management. That structure was the beginning of a rescue for me. Jason Howell was Jesus to me. He brought me out of a dark place to a place of greater light. Think about it. How many times has Jesus left the 99 for you? How many times? When I really reframed the question that way, I began to build a list in my journal, and then I began to build a page, and then another, of all the times I jumped back in that ditch, and Jesus sent someone again in his relentless pursuit of me. Is the same true for you? Yes or yes? How many times? How many times have you jumped back in that ditch, full on jumped? Full on. You. And then a couple of you were like, I was just walking close to the edge. I looked up for a minute. Next thing I knew. And then she showed up. He showed up. Brad's story tonight, just this tiny little fractal piece of Brad's story. How many times was Brad rescued? How many times did it look like the face of Jesus Christ? And how many times did it look like a coach? Or a track meet? Or a text? Or a phone call? That Jesus sent someone from the 99 in relentless pursuit of each one of us. Go ahead, what's the movie? Who's the name of the guy in the old garments, we can say? Oh, haven't we come so far? Okay, so now we know this is right after what happened. The relentless pursuit. Because George, he said in pleading prayer, I don't know what to do. If you're there, I need. He was about to what? He was worth more dead than. It was the only way he saw out from the pain and the circumstance. And from the 99 came the one, Clarence. How did Clarence save George?
Jumped in the water so that he would save him.
Yeah, he didn't say, I'm here to save you. He jumped in the water and saved George by having George save. Sometimes this thing that Jesus does when he leaves the 99 to come to us, it doesn't look like the bearded Jesus that we see at freaking Deseret Book. It looks like Clarence, or pain, or suffering, or a run. But we're being called away from our stuckness back into discipleship and growth and action. We're not here to be acted upon, but to act. Do you remember what George said about Clarence at first? He says, you look like the kind of angel I'd get. No wings? And I've been that. I've been George. Haven't you been George? Like someone showed up or something showed up and it's an invitation from God to get up and get going again. But we're like, it's not packaged properly. I'm looking for something else. I mean, come on. Who's been there? Looking the gift horse in the mouth and go, I was hoping for something a different color. These are some of my angels. I bumped into one of these guys in the middle, one of these bearded warriors. They're all cut, looking like freaking Greek gods. Right out of freaking the movie 300 or something, Spartans. They come out of special operations and Marine Raiders, and they were on top of their game. They were the top operators in their field, and they're going to transition back into civilian life, and they think they're going to crush it. Just it's another mission. I got this. And they come home to their families and their kids, and it's nothing like they fall apart. And then they feel like they're failing, but they're not failures. They can't imagine, they can't admit it. And so they start drinking, and they start just taking a day or two off from the gym, and pretty soon they put on a lot of weight. They come up with all kinds of addictions and all kinds of mental health problems, and they just fall apart. They don't transition. The Marines, they know how to make warriors, but they don't know how to make civilians, some say. I got invited to speak to one of these groups. And so I go out there, and there's 16, 17 guys in this surf city with this house by the shore that's up on the stilts, so you park your car underneath the carport. And I'm in the room with these warriors, and they're all younger than me and more muscle than me and more ink than me. They got it all going on. And they're just, and I'm just as broken as they are. But I just marvel at how they rally together and how they're building community and how they have conversations without shame, and they talk about what's going on. And I'm there to share something, and I'm listening and participating. And one morning we find ourselves under the carport, dressed in our freaking skivvies, looking at these 2 tubs of ice. Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. You see the ice coming out of it, and we're all standing there. You can't see us. We're on the back side of this picture. We're all in a half circle. Nick is kind of telling us about cold plunging. I've never cold plunged before. This was a few years back. I'd never cold plunged before, and this was about being authentic and being vulnerable. And we're all standing there, and I'm standing there, and my body is not like their bodies. Let me just tell you that. So I'm standing there, just trying not to be self-conscious. Like, I'm past all that shame. I don't have body shame. I also don't have any sunshine. I need to get out more. And then Nick goes, is anybody nervous about this? He tells us we're gonna do this thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, I thought I'm nervous. I thought we were just being vulnerable. And he goes, great, Kirk, you can go first. So I get in one tub, some other warrior gets in the other tub. We sit in there for 3 minutes, and I'm just trying not to freak out. And then we get out, a couple more guys get in, and I go, oh my gosh, I didn't get a picture. No one's gonna believe me. So I go over to Josh. Josh is this guy that looks like he might be, I don't know, a model for how to look when you look ripped. I'm like, hey, Josh. And I felt kind of stupid, like, hey, I want a picture, you know? And he goes, hey, Kirk, I got you, brother. When everyone's done, I'm going to jump back in for 10 seconds. I hand him my phone. He's got the code, right? So I'm just standing there waiting for this whole thing to end so I can get a vanity shot, so I can tell the war story that I've done the thing. And so I'm standing there kind of hovering on the side. Josh is there with the phone. He's got me covered. And there's an odd number of guys. And so Nick goes, oh, we got an odd number. This is a buddy system. Oh, Kirk? Oh, thanks, man. Because I'm standing right there, it appears like I want to go again. I don't want to go again, not for 3 minutes. I still don't feel my toes from the first time I was in that thing. I've done a lot of training with Nick and his Ogogi program, his men's programs, and whenever I stay at his house, I know that we're going to do contrast therapy. We're going to get in this sauna, which is 240, and then get in the plunge, which is 38, and we're going to go back and forth until one of us passes out. I know we're going to do it until we see God, you know. Nick told me one morning, he says, Kirk, he said, I hate getting cold. I said, why do you do it? There's all these proposed health benefits. Why do you do it? He goes, I do it because I'm choosing to do it. I figure if I do the hardest thing I can imagine first thing in the morning, nothing else that happens today is going to be harder than what I chose to do for myself. I went home and I bought a plunge, put it on the side of the house, spent a lot of time in it. At that program, one of those subsequent programs, they were challenging each other to overcome certain things. And they challenged me. To stop hiding behind my successes as I supposed. Choose the path of greatest growth, which equates, we know, to the path of least comfort, doesn't it? Almost always. And so in a quiet moment with my journal, pondering what would be the path of greatest growth for me, I found myself with an idea, and the idea was I was going to say yes to everything and everyone for a year. I was going to do a year of yes. That year I got invited to 5 different men's programs. I didn't even know what a men's program was. I know what I thought they were, and boy was I wrong. It was actually a men's program in a bucket of ice with Darren Johansson, just the two of us in that bucket, by the way, trying to keep each other warm. Lorraine, he wouldn't let me cuddle too much. He mentioned your name a couple times. What a year that was when God knew then I was willing. He lined up the lessons and lined me up with other men. This was a year ago at Yuba Lake. I'll be here again next week. Locking arms with 15 or 16 other men as we walk into Yuba Lake. Word is we're going to have to break the ice this time before we walk in. In the last 3 years, I've been in cold plunge experiences with over 300 men. And I've seen the hand of God. I feel like I'm on the front row in that beautiful story in the book of Ether, where God touches a stone and fills it with light. I feel like I'm right there sometimes. And I feel so lucky and so blessed. But God's hand was always there. His miracles are always there for us to see if we have the eyes to see. But if we're too busy doom scrolling and hiding and jumping in ditches, that's me. Sometimes there's not room enough for two men. There's a significant difference between these two men. It's the same guy. It's the same guy who's been rescued again and again and again and again. Just like who? Just like you. The evidence is undeniable. The relentless pursuit of a loving God is undeniable. He has come before, he has come again, he has come. He has rescued us all. And we'll still muck it up, we'll still trip and fall, we'll still, whatever reason, we'll jump back in that ditch. We just will. You know you will. Even though you say you won't. There's this part like, oh, probably, dang it, never again. Oh, here I am. But this time you will not kowtow to shame. You will look up and you will live. And you'll reach back towards the hands that are always extended to you. You will do the hard thing. You will choose the path of greatest growth. You will begin again. What else is there to do? As sons and daughters of God, what else is there to do but begin again? To become more, to act. It's in doing the thing Emerson wrote that we find and have the power. I want to close with the greatest lesson I learned in my year of yes. One of our sons took a hard thing and made it harder with drugs and became lost to us and to the world for a time. And rejected everything and became homeless. And there was a period of time when one of the siblings would just check with the authorities in a particular state where he was wandering and check for him to be in the obituaries. And then after a time, a long time, we got this miraculous email that he wanted to come home. And he was out of his mind on drugs and very, very broken. We didn't even know if he would be on the flight he said he would be on. But some benevolent person that only God knows bought this boy a ticket and flew him home. And when you think about your typical LDS family at the airport waiting for a family member or a young man to come home, it's different than what we were experiencing in this moment. But we stood there, my wife and I and our youngest son. And then here came our Josh. He looked awful. Everything he owned was in a little clear $12 Walmart backpack with a shaving kit in it. As we threw our arms around this boy, this young man, he said, "I'm sorry." The lesson I learned that yet again helped me draw closer to Christ was not in what was said in that moment, but what wasn't said. He said, "I'm sorry. I want to come home." And we said, "We want you to come home." What no one said was, "But if you come home, there's going to be some, and you're going to need to make some things." There was none of this. There was only, if you want to be with us, we want to be with you. Agency, honored fully. If this is where you want to be, oh my gosh, then be. And it was no prodigal son moment. He stayed for about a year and a half and got cleaned up and cleared out and sober, and then he's back in the ditch. But the lesson I learned and the relationship that I have with the Savior that's different because of that moment, because of that frontline row to watch the relentless pursuit of God, His willingness to teach, His willingness to forgive, His willingness to love, His willingness to have us home. Not just His willingness, but His what? His desire, His work, His glory. To have us home. I treasure it. I love you. I thank you for this time with you. I share these thoughts with you. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. We have snacks that are going to be in the back of the cultural hall, and we'll need to be back in our seats at 4:15, so we got about 25 minutes. And so if you can just head there. Also, for those that are new and haven't heard my talk, if you're new coming out to singles and death or divorce, meet with me in the North Foyer.
We want to do the next one. Okay. Do you want to get him out of here or no? No. Okay. Let everyone come up right here. Okay.